All right. Good morning, Scott.
What's going on, Joe? We're recording. I think we're 2 seconds in, and welcome to TEAL Shirt Report podcast number 14. Do you remember any interesting number 14s, Joe?
Number 14. Boy,
Number 14. Just to shoot you a curve early.
I know some 16s and some 12s. I'm trying to think of 14s. Who am I missing with the 14, Scott? I know you got somebody in mind.
Well, the Jags had a wide receiver named Justin Blackmon that didn't last in the league too long. You remember him, of course.
Oh, I thought you were all right. I'm thinking quarterbacks. So you're going to pick a couple of quarterbacks.
Well, there had to have been a 14, along the way. Joe Namath was 12. I think the Jets
Bob Greasy was 12. Joe Montana was 16. Drew Brees was 9. Oh, yeah. Aaron Rodgers was 12, isn't he?
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers was 12. I believe so. And I guess you heard about Sonny Jurgensen passing away, right?
Yeah, he was number 9.
He was, yeah.
Yep, I heard about that. Well, listen, he was 91 years old, so he had a good run.
Yeah. Sonny Jurgensen, he had an interesting life because he was with the Redskins, and then Vince Lombardi took over for 1 year, but about the time he was getting sick, and then he passed away. After about a year. And that was actually before I really started watching. I was a toddler almost then, but that's before I really started watching football. But now, all of a sudden, I liked the Rams, Roman Gabriel too. And then all of a sudden, George Allen went from the Rams to the Redskins after Vince Lombardi passed away.
Billy Kilmer went to the Redskins from wherever he was at. He might have been he was at the Saints at some point. He went to the Redskins, and that's who they went to the Super Bowl against the Dolphins, and that was the year the Dolphins went 17-0, and they won that Super Bowl 14-7.
That's right. And all about the Dolphins had back-to-back Super Bowl championships. They even played, they actually played in 3 Super Bowls in a row. Lost the first one to Dallas.
The first Super Bowl I ever went to was Super Bowl 8, which was the Dolphins against Minnesota in Houston, Texas. And I went with my mom. I was, 14 at the time or something like that, 13. Okay. And I remember it was raining that day, Rice Stadium, Houston, Texas, and Zonka just tore him up. I think he ran for about 140 yards. They just kept giving him the ball. I think Bob Greasy, if you can believe it or not, in this day and age, he only threw, I believe it was 9 or 10 passes the entire game. It was a whole different kind of football back then.
I mean, they had the Dolphins had a really good offensive line. They had Larry Little playing guard. They had the center that you've talked about, in the last episode. What was the center's name?
No, I don't think, you know what? I don't think Dwight Stevenson was not the center at that point in time. The center was named Jim Langer. He's actually in the Hall of Fame.
That's right.
Langer, I'll tell you right, Langer was at center, Bob Kuchenberg, and was at one guard, and I think Norm Evans was the second guard, and then
what about Larry Little? He wore 66.
Right? No, I'm sorry. Larry Little was the guard, and Norm Evans was the tackle, and Multy Moore was the other tackle. So they had like 3 of those guys. Cooch didn't make it. I know Langer made it. Larry Little made it, and I'm not positive if Norm Evans made it, but they had at least 2 of those guys went into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Bob Greasy was more of a high percentage passer because they had 2 or 3. They always had 2 or 3 really good running backs and a great.
Well, they had Zonka. Well, Zonka, Kick, and Merck Morris.
Yeah, Mercury. That's right. Mercury passed away recently too.
Yeah, and Kick passed away a few years ago too. They had, and I don't know if this has ever been repeated. They had Mercury Morris and Larry Zonka both ran for over 1,000 yards one year. And remember, that was back when it was 14-game seasons.
And I
think the closest.
Yeah.
What's that, Scott? I think the closest other team was the Atlanta Falcons. They had a couple back, and Dave Hampton was one of them. and he had like 995 yards, and the other guy had 1,000 yards. I don't remember his name, but I think that's the closest anybody's come to the 2,000-yard rushers.
Could have been maybe William Andrews out of Auburn that had a brief NFL career, but was really, really good. You remember him, William Andrews with the Falcons back in the
Not
day?
really.
Yeah, you remember Bartkowski though?
Oh, Steve Bartkowski, sure.
Best quarterback the Falcons ever had, in my opinion. Just my opinion. The Falcons have had about 3 really pretty good quarterbacks over the years.
Let me tell you, I'll give you a quick trivia tidbit about Bartkowski.
Mm-hmm.
When the Miami Marlins first came into play in 1992-93, they were playing at the old Joe Robbie Stadium, Hard Rock Stadium. Yep. So they to get fan interest, they had a day where you could come down and go to home plate and take 5 pitches from the pitching machine and hit them into the actual field. Yeah. So I had a buddy of mine named Paul. We got up 4 o'clock in the morning and we got down there. We were like number 430 in line. And it's a lot bigger than you think from Little League times, boy. That infield, and it's a long ways. There was only one guy to hit a home run that day, Steve Bartkowski.
Wow. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks going back in the day when I was a kid. We're talking to New York Joe. I want to introduce you, Joe, again, because we just kind of started talking here. But I wanted to introduce New York Joe as a guest on our podcast. He was here with us a few days back, and he'll be with us. He'll be a regular guest from time to time, maybe once a week or so is what Joe and I.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds like yep.
And we're going to talk
a special guest until you kick me out, Scott.
Yeah, no, I think you're very valuable. Our executive producer gave you kind of a thumbs up, kind of a half and half thumbs up. I think it was almost a full thumbs up, actually.
Yeah, but what does he know?
Well, he's running around making a little coffee for us, and
is he the bongo guy too?
yeah, he is. And
okay,
yeah. Let me see if I can. Gosh, let's bring in some coffee here. Here we go. Ooh, there he is.
There
Joe,
you go.
It's good to have you with us on the TEAL Jerk Report podcast. We're going to bring our music up. And we're going to talk about, we've talked about some stuff that's happened in the past. And I believe also, real quickly, before we talk about the Super Bowl that's coming up on Sunday this weekend, that year you talked about where the Dolphins had 2 running backs that rushed for 1,000 yards, and that's unheard of in today's game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mercury Morris and Larry Zonka.
I remember the news story, Joe, because my memory's a lot better. My old memory's a lot better than my recent or new memory. But I remember
join the club, Scott. Yep.
I remember when I was a kid, I remember distinctly watching a story on TV that after the season ended, they went back and re-added everything back up. And that's how the Dolphins got the 2 1,000-yard rushers. I think maybe as the season ended, one of the running backs had 998 or 999. They went back through and they re-added the stats and
yeah, I believe that would have been Mercury Morris, and I believe you're right about that. And he ended up they gave him like a few yards extra, and it ended up with like 1,002 yards.
Yeah, that was a different day. It's a different game. I mean, the fullback was obviously with the Dolphins, the fullback, Larry Zonka, was highly involved. The fullbacks on most teams were a big part of the offense, back when we're talking about back in the 70s or 80s, I believe.
Here was 2 of the things about those days. One, if it was 4th down or 3rd down and 4 yards or less, you were running the ball.
Wow.
And the other thing was there was no going for it on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. You were punting or kicking the field goal. Nobody took chance. Very rarely, once or twice a season or something like that. But it was more of a conservative type game.
Was the Dolphins punter for a while Larry Seipel? Does that ring a bell with you?
Yeah, he was absolutely the punter for quite a while. He's most well known for that Pittsburgh playoff game, taking the fake punt and running for the first down. That was the whole difference maker.
He was
that was the week, and that was the week after the Immaculate Reception.
Seipel was kind of an athlete too. Didn't he play like flanker a little
He
bit too?
he played tight end. He was the third string tight end also.
Oh wow, okay. So he could catch the ball. He was used to
He could
being
catch them.
in the
Yeah,
offensive
they didn't
line.
use him that much. He caught maybe a half dozen passes in the course of a year. They didn't want to take a chance on him getting hurt because he was the
Yeah.
punter also.
Well, and the 49ers, John Brody recently passed away. His backup
Yeah.
quarterback was Steve Spurrier for years. And Spurrier was also the
Okay.
punter for the 49ers.
I did not know that.
He was. Spurrier had there was one season when Brody got hurt. I think Spurrier came off the bench and threw 18 touchdown passes one year.
Huh.
But he was the punter for several years until he left. I guess the 49ers did not protect him because he was basically a backup quarterback.
Well, he got taken up in
the
the expansion draft to Tampa.
He was with the 0-26 Buccaneers.
Yep.
And that's a great documentary if you've ever watched that.
I didn't, Scott. I didn't need to watch it. I lived it. I lived that 0-26.
And John McKay.
We were. I wasn't doing it at the time, but the people I work for, they were going up and taking the. We used to Bob, the one guy. He'd go on the away games to the Tampa Bay, and we used to call him the Jinx. We thought he was the reason why they was 0-26.
It took a while.
And John McKay, John McKay was the coach at Tampa back in those days, and he had that famous line. The reporter asked him after the game. They said, "Coach, what do you think about your team's execution today?" And he said, "I'm all for it."
Yeah, there were other numerous funny things he said throughout his tenure with the Buccaneers, and then they finally kind of righted the ship. I think after about 3 years or so, I believe.
They had that one year. It was 1979. Doug Williams was the quarterback, and they ended up making it to the championship game. I want to say Williams got hurt, and they lost 9-0 to the Rams, who then went on to the Super Bowl and lost to Pittsburgh out in Pasadena. It was basically a home game for the Rams. I believe it was 31-19. So I was at that 9-0 game, and it was, and you thought you're going to go back every year after that, and then it was about 15 years until they made it back into the playoffs again, the Bucs, and they got rid of Doug Williams because the owner of the Bucs back in those days, a guy named Hugh Culverhouse, was very racist, and he didn't want to have a black man as his quarterback. That's a true story.
Oh no, I didn't know, Joe. I didn't know.
Yeah,
say it ain't so, Joe.
Yeah. Well, they got rid of Doug Williams and got the throwing Samoan Jack Thompson.
But he never worked out.
He never worked out. Then they wanted to draft Bo Jackson, and Jackson said, "I'll go play baseball. I'm not going to play for Tampa because you're a racist owner." They drafted him anyway. Bo Jackson went back into, went and played baseball, didn't go into football, and got drafted by the Raiders the following year. Then they drafted Steve Young.
Yeah.
But they ended up trading Steve Young to the 49ers so that they could draft Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah, and I guess Vinny was okay, but he wasn't Steve Young.
He was. I'll tell you what. Let me tell you something quick about Steve Young. I remember it was I think it might have been the 85 Bears, but it might have been 84 too. And the Bears were a rough and tough and hard-hitting team. You know that. And we went to Chicago for a game, and Steve Young took a beating like I have never seen anybody take a beating on a football field. And that guy has got more heart and more guts than any football player I've ever seen. He's unbelievable, Steve Young.
He had the, Steve Young had the big. You remember when they played the Chargers, and he had the big long pass to start the game. I think it was Jerry Rice that caught that pass when early in the game when San Francisco beat the Chargers. Bobby Ross was coaching the Chargers at the time, I believe. And but as we turn our attention to the Super Bowl, as we flash forward to 2026, Joe, you want to talk about, obviously we want to talk about the Pats, the Patriots, and the Seahawks. It's a matchup of two interesting quarterbacks, I would think.
Yeah, before I respond to that, I would like to say, Scott, it's a bittersweet weekend. It's the Super Bowl, which is very exciting, but it also signals the end of football season until I guess, you got free agency in the draft, but boy, it's a rough 6, 7 months until they kick it off again. And so it is a little bittersweet.
But Joe, the season is so long now. I mean, now I'm gonna say this about that. I'm looking at the two teams that are in the game, and this is not like the old days. I mean, this is two teams that are both entering the Super Bowl. One team played 19 games, the other team played 20 games. The Patriots are 17-3. The Seahawks are 16-3 because I guess the Patriots had to play one more playoff game. But that's a lot. That's a long season.
Yeah, and I'll be one of those people that said it's not long enough, Scott. You hate to see it end.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was more of a purist. I kind of like the 14 game schedule back in the day, but then it's all about TV and the TV revenue and more games, right?
Well, it's nice to turn on the TV. What is it, about 4 nights out of the week now, 3 or 4 nights out of the week, and be able to watch football.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Well, Joe,
But anyway,
when I was a kid, and we'd come, I went to church and Sunday school and things like that back in the day. Get home from church, and all of a sudden, we got the Redskins. We really only got the Redskins for a long time, for a few years there when I was a kid. Then we got the Dolphins games, and things like that on the other network because there were two networks. I guess the Redskins were always on CBS. The Dolphins were on NBC. The Dolphins were not very good in the very early beginnings of when they became a franchise, but they got good quick with Don Shula.
yeah. And the other thing, I can go back because I'm a few years older than you, Scott, so I can even tell you a little something else. I remember before the merger. So you would have, I was in New York at the time, so I'm getting the Giants games every week. We're watching the Giants on, I guess that would have been CBS. And then over on NBC, you'd have the AFC. And it was two entirely different types of football. It was 3 yards in a cloud of dust with the CBS, and then the AFC. They were just slinging that ball all over the field. Namath, Daryl LaMonica, Len Dawson, John Hadel.
Yeah, it was the explosive league. The passing league was what the AFL was. Now our executive producer is a longtime Buffalo Bills fan, so he has suffered through some years. But the Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos,
that poor bastard.
let me tell you what, the Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos, I think, are the only teams from the original year. I guess the AFL opened about 1960.
Something like that, 60, 61, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and the Denver Broncos were in the league then, so were the Buffalo Bills, and those are the only two city and nicknames that are still playing in the NFL now because some of the team names and cities have changed. The Raiders have gone back and
what about the Jets?
Well, they were the Titans at one time, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. And Oakland was out of there, and San Diego was out of San Diego, and Kansas City was the Houston Texans at the time.
Yeah, that's true. And the Kansas City
and New England. Well, New England was the Patriots, but that wasn't a city name. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
you're right. They were called the Boston Patriots in the beginning, I believe.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay.
You remember that, Joe?
I did not remember that, Scott.
Yeah, they were called. In fact, even when they first entered the NFL, they were the Boston Patriots for a few years. And then I think they got the stadium in Foxborough, and they were a little bit outside of Boston. So they said, we'll just kind of become a team for the whole kind of region, the regional type team. And that's when I guess they became the New England Patriots. And everybody loved the Patriots, probably from Rhode Island to Massachusetts to Maine down to Boston and all surrounding areas. Joe, I see you're lighting up a stogie. You're about ready to give us a Super Bowl prediction, aren't you? How do you think this game's going this Sunday, 2026?
Well, I've given it a lot of thought, Scott, and I've probably given it more thought than I need to.
Yes,
And
sir.
let me say, I was on the Sam Darnold is going to blow it bandwagon. And as you remember, I actually picked the Rams in the championship game a couple weeks back and stuff. I thought Arnold was going to mess it up, but Arnold's a stud now. Sam Arnold is he's a top 10 quarterback, no doubt about it.
I think he's the perfect definition of a quarterback back in the day that took 4 or 5 years to develop, because when he was with the Jets in the early days, he was
Well,
seeing ghosts.
that's somebody I don't remember where I heard it, but somebody said that's the Jets. That's where the first pick in the draft goes to die, and they're just terribly run organization, and they've just ruined many
Yeah.
many players' careers, and
Yeah.
the people that got out of there have flourished. And everybody that you talk to that played with Darnold in Carolina and San Francisco before he got to Seattle will say what kind of how strong his arm is, how good of an athlete he is. So I'm on the Sam Darnold bandwagon. That being said,
Yeah. Now, was it Sam Darnold? He was with the Jets in the beginning, and then he went to. I'm thinking he was with Minnesota, then Seattle.
no. He was with, well, yeah, but before that, he was
Was he in
he was a
Carolina at
backup.
one time?
He was a backup in San Francisco. He was
Okay.
the starter in Carolina. He played with Kristen McCafferty in Carolina before McCafferty got traded to San Francisco. And then he went to Minnesota last year, and now he's in Seattle. So he's on his fifth team right now. Oh, did I say the magic word? Was that the buzzer? I won a prize?
Let me just double check. No. That's just some background. We're getting a little feedback here. I've got the Sam Darnold career stats here. So
Okay. Go ahead, check it out.
Yeah, you're right on, Joe. You're right on some of the. Yeah, man, I didn't realize he was with that many teams. He was with the Jets for 3 years, the Carolina Panthers for 2 years, the 49ers for 1 year, the Vikings for a year, and with the Seattle Seahawks in 2025. So this would be actually his first. Is this his first or second year with Seattle?
First. He was with Minnesota
Okay,
last year.
Yeah, and gosh, when you take a look at these stats and these numbers on Sam Darnold, there's a year I'm looking at when he was with the Jets. He completed 57% of his passes back in 2018, and now he's like 10% better. He's now completing 67% of his passes as of the 2020.
Yeah, it's all about the structure. It's all about the structure of the organization and the coaching.
Yeah.
And
so you're right.
I
had forgotten about Carolina and San Francisco, that he had played with them also.
And if you think about it, he was in San Francisco with Shanahan. He was in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell, and now he's in Seattle with Clint Kubiak. Those are three offensive-minded coaches that are way up there in the hierarchy. Kubiak's going to be the new coach of the Raiders and stuff. So they coached him up, and he's got the natural talent. Now, all that being said, I'm taking the Patriots in the points.
So let me ask you this now. This would be my interpretation of that, because I've thought about the game. Overall, I think Seattle might have the better team. However,
they do.
So what you're saying is New England could win the game. And
I'm thinking it's going to be a low. I'm looking at like 23-20, somewhere in that area, 24-23. Maybe the Patriots pull it out, but maybe they keep it close. And here's the main reason why they're going to keep it close, I think.
Okay.
Seattle has the youngest team in the league, or the second youngest team. They have very little. They got Cooper Kupp, and other than outside of Kupp, I don't think they have anybody else that has any Super Bowl experience.
Yeah.
You switch over to the Patriots, you have the coach, Mike Grable. He's been to 4 Super Bowls. You have Josh McDaniels. This will be his 10th Super Bowl.
Wow. That's a lot of experience there. Yeah.
That's a lot of experience.
And normally, if you go back in Super Bowl history, a lot of times the young team will lose the first year, and then they come back and maybe win it. The Dolphins did that too.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
now I would also say this. I think what we're also saying here is that a second-year quarterback, and now that we look at the whole ball of wax, Sam Darnold has quite a bit more experience in the league than a Drake May. And could it be Drake May throws 2 picks in this game and the Patriots win? Could that happen?
He's going to turn the ball over once or twice. He had a lot of fumbles. He had some interceptions, but he had quite a few fumbles. He took a bunch of sacks and stuff like that. I think the difference for the Patriots is Drake May with his legs. He's going to scramble. They're going to have to do some design runs. He's going to have to do some work with his legs to pick up some yardage and stuff, especially like on third downs. And the receiving corps for New England is underrated. They don't have a guy like Seattle does, JSN or whatever.
They still got Brother Diggs, right? Brother Diggs.
Yeah. But they got Diggs and they've got Kyle Williams and Butte from LSU. And Hunter Henry is somebody to watch tomorrow, because one of the weaknesses of Seattle is their defense against the tight ends. So Hunter Henry could be looking at a good game tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So Joe, I'm looking at this point spread real quick. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what I was going to say is I'm looking at Seattle is still a 4.5-point favorite. Now, I talked to some people around town during the week, and there was a couple of people said they thought the line had gotten up to 5 or 5.5 points at one time, but I've only seen it at 4.5, and about 3 different times I've looked at the line. So Seattle is a 4.5-point favorite.
It might have been 5 or 5.5 like the first couple days.
Okay.
But since then, it's been down to 4.5, and it's not going up. It's going to go, if anything, it'll go to 4 before it goes to 5.
What about this over-under at 45.5 for the Super Bowl?
That's been dropping down a little bit too, and I think the under could be the play. I think it's going to be very conservative.
Wow.
The first quarter, they're going to be feeling each other out, and now New England just wants to keep the game close going into the fourth quarter and try to sneak out a win. They're not going to go up 17-0 on Seattle. Now, Seattle could go up 17-0 on New England. If it's a blowout, it's going to go Seattle's way.
Yeah. What about the weather? The game's actually in northern California, right?
It's not going to be a factor.
Okay. You don't think there'll be some cold weather or anything like that?
Nah, there's no cold weather. It's not for these guys. I mean, the worst case scenario is it could be in the 50s or something like that, but it's not gonna. Weather's not going to be a factor. It's not going to be a snowstorm like it was in Denver 2 weeks ago.
Levi's Stadium this Sunday, February the 8th of 2026, 6:30 p.m. kickoff. Levi's Stadium. Seattle Seahawks 16-3. New England Patriots are 17-3. Let me mention that against New England.
And remember, out in San Francisco, Scott, the kickoff is going to be 3:30 in the afternoon. So it's going to be the middle of whatever the high for the day is. That's what it's going to be.
Sun will be out. Yeah, that might be the warmest part of the day. The New England Patriots are 17-3. The Seattle Seahawks are 16-3. Again, the line. Every time I've looked at the line, it's been 4.5. Seattle favored by 4.5 points. The over/under, I'm looking at 45.5 points. And so, Joe, you like New England to cover the spread and win the game, it sounds like.
I like New England to cover the spread. I think they got a good chance to win the game. I like the under. Who do you like, Scott?
Something, Joe, I just keep thinking Seattle's got a better team, but
they do.
But a lot of things you're saying make sense. It could be a very close game.
Don't hem and haw, Scott. Make a prediction. Come on. Listen, your listeners and your fans, they want to know. You can't go down it's the last game of the season. It's the Super Bowl. Don't walk the line over there, Scott. Go out on the ledge and make a prediction.
Okay. And don't go by the source. Go by what I feel, right? I see what
If
the
someone
source
gave
is
you,
saying.
if somebody gave you $100 and said, Scott, you got to put it on either take New England in the points or Seattle and give the points, where are you going?
Well, you know, Joe, I keep wanting to pick.
For all the Teal League podcast listeners out there,
Yeah.
I'm pressing them on this, guys. I'm pressing them to make a choice here.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Joe. Let's do this. I'm going to talk about it this way. I'm a little different than you, but I think we're both going to actually say New England's going to win the game somehow, some way. I think New England wins the game. I didn't think I'd ever say this 2 weeks ago, but I think I'll pick New England to win, and I'll even give you a final score. I think it'll be New England 28, Seattle 20.
There you go.
And
so you're taking the points and you're taking the over, and you actually, with New England winning, you should bet the money line. That's your best odds.
Yeah,
New England to win straight up.
Well, and not only that, but if I've got 28 and 20, that's 48 points. So I'm saying the game's going over then, since it's 4.5.
Yeah,
45.
You're taking the over and New England.
You got a score for us, Joe?
23-22.
Wow, that's a good game and a low scoring one, and that gets you just barely over to the under, right?
You got to make it exciting, Scott.
So Joe and I both like the Patriots. I like the Patriots maybe to score a few more points.
I'll give you another stat about Seattle. Seattle leaves a lot of points on the field. If you watched many of their games this year, they settled for field goals a lot of times when they couldn't punch it into the end zone.
Okay, so that tells you that if they can do well in the red zone, that they should be able to cover. They should. Well, they're favored to lose by 4.5, so they'll cover either way.
If New England can hold Seattle to field goals and make it a field goal game, New England, that gives them a chance.
So what we're in a sense saying, we're saying that Sam Darnold might see some ghost in a high pressure. I mean, the Super Bowl is a pressurized game, and Sam Darnold, maybe some of those ghosts from early in his career come back in a pressure type game, the Super Bowl.
And the pressure is unbelievable for a Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, first, and you make, we spoke about it earlier about teams that are young that get to the Super Bowl the first year. You go back to the Dolphins. They lost to the Cowboys, who lost to the Colts the year before.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think did Kansas City win their first Super Bowl? Try with Mahomes. I don't remember, but there's other teams that.
If you go back even earlier, like before I started watching Super Bowls, Kansas City lost to Green Bay, and then they
beat Minnesota.
That was the first Super Bowl I ever watched around 70. And Kansas City, Len Dawson, they matriculated the ball down the field, as you know, and won that game 23-7. But that was not their first Super Bowl.
No, it wasn't. That was a great team. I remember that game like it was yesterday. I was
Otis Taylor,
big Kansas
the pass going down the sidelines.
Who did?
Otis Taylor.
Otis Taylor.
Yeah.
Otis Taylor. Yep.
And Jan Stenner, I think, kicked 3 field goals in that game too.
Yep. Willie Lanier, Curly Culp.
Oh man.
Buck Buchanan.
I heard
Jim Marcellus.
I heard him describe
Lynch. Emmett Thomas.
Hey, listen, I heard Ken Stabler, who sadly passed away a few years ago, but I heard Ken Stabler on an old interview podcast. He said that Willie Lanier, man, he was like a Coke machine with a helmet the way he was shaped.
Yeah.
And Willie Lanier wore number 63, and he was probably one of my favorite defensive players when I used to watch the Chiefs. And I still, and you may not agree with me, but I still think back in the 70s, the biggest rivalry in the NFL might have been Kansas City and Oakland. It was a big one.
No argument.
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue that for a second. Boy, they had some battles. I was always rooting for Kansas City back in those days, but I remember Oakland with Darryl LaMonica throwing those Hail Mary bombs to Warren Wells.
But I still liked watching Oakland. Fred Biletnikoff, number 25, with a stickum on his hands. I don't know how
No,
legal that was
yeah.
back in the day. Joe, what about the Jaguars now? What about they're probably going to lose a couple of guys like Devin Lloyd's probably going to test the free agent market. He'll be gone. ETN, there's rumors that he may go to an AFC North team. And the Jags look like they're going to lose a couple of players. However, I think the Jags losing Devin Lloyd's not the worst thing in the world because they're kind of deep at linebacker. I think they can replace ETN, although I'd like to keep ETN. But the Jags with Trevor Lawrence coming on more this year, and I think Trevor Lawrence, I think the winning streak the Jags went on, about an 8-game winning streak, the first 2 or 3 wins were attributed to the Jags defensive line finally getting really some good pressure on the opposing team's quarterback. But at some point in time, Trevor Lawrence kind of picked it up during the winning streak. He stayed healthy, and I think he kind of, toward the halfway point of the season, kind of bought into Liam Cohen's system or something.
I totally agree with you on that. And just to add to it, the Jaguar. Was this Trevor Lawrence's first playoff game?
No, he
beat he beat the Chargers. Yeah. Okay, so here's 2 things. One,
they were losing by I think they were losing by 3 touchdowns.
Right? Yeah. They came back from a big thing, and then they lost the next week, I think. But here's the thing: Travis Hunter. He'll come back for a second year. They got to figure out what to do with him. I think the way to go is offense. But the more important thing is Liam Cohen is a good offensive coach. He's going to go up there into the category with McVay and Shanahan and those kind of guys when it comes to offense. And a second year with Trevor Lawrence is going to make a world of difference. So if they can just keep the defense stabilized and hang on to the offensive line, maybe add a piece there. Yeah. The Jags are going to be good next year.
Yeah, I think when you take a look at the whole thing with the Jaguars. Now, here's another interesting piece, too, that I wanted to throw out there. Both of the Jaguars coordinators, the offensive coordinator, young guy Udinski, I think he's only 30 years old, and then you had Anthony Campanelli, the defensive coordinator. They were both on head coaching interviews, but they pulled their names out or they didn't get the job, and now they're going to be back, which I think is a good thing for them to be back as a second-year coordinator with this team.
I totally agree with you. And as a matter of fact, I heard a stat last week because it did apply to the Saints also because I'm a Saints fan because I'm in Louisiana now, but they were able to hold on to both of their coordinators too. And I believe what they said was there was only 6 teams in the NFL this offseason that kept the same offensive and defensive coordinators. The Jags are one, the Saints are another. It's going to make a world of difference. They're getting in, into the system.
Going to make things more cohesive going into a second year of everybody being together, I believe.
Exactly. And it took the first half of the year for the Jags to get all on the same page as far as the offense. Remember early in the season, Trevor Lawrence was giving looks to Liam Cohen, and they were arguing on the sideline.
I think he finally bought into their system at some point during the winning streak, I believe. But like I said, I think the defensive line for the Jaguars, they came to play at least 2 or 3 games of that winning streak when it started, I think was attributed to the pressure the Jags defensive line was getting on the opposing quarterback. And then maybe the defensive line wasn't really getting as much pressure on the quarterback later in the winning streak, but Trevor was picking up the offense. I guess you'd say Trevor was starting to believe in the system that Liam Cohen was running, and he was buying into it, is what I'm trying to say.
That's one of the things. The other thing with Trevor Lawrence is he has to develop more trust with his wide receivers. In this day and age, there's about a 3-foot opening to throw the football, and think that it's going to be completed. And he has to just go ahead and make those throws and hope that those wide receivers make those catches. You can't hesitate. You can't do anything. That's when you throw those interceptions. Throw the ball. He's got great wide receivers: Jacoby Myers, Brian Thomas, and now with Travis Hunter. And I like the tight end too.
Parker Washington had a breakout year for the Jags too.
Yeah, he did. He's a little he's like Seattle's guy that used to be in New Orleans, Shaheed. He's like a do everything. Well, doesn't he return punts and kickoffs and does the end around?
You know, New York Joe, Parker Washington, I was looking at speed of wide receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. is a guy that I think after the Jags drafted him, they found out he was actually a little faster or quicker than they thought he was. Parker Washington is not as fast or as quick a guy, but he makes good moves, gets open, catches the ball. I mean, you got Jacoby Myers that's catching the ball. I think I saw Jacoby Myers drop the ball maybe one time.
That was the biggest. That to me was the biggest difference with Trevor Lawrence in the second half of the season was he had Jacoby Myers.
No doubt.
You know, just throw it in the area and he's going to catch it more times than not.
Now, just kind of changing, changing the tune around a little bit. Speaking of tunes, Barry Manilow, I told you about him the last time we talked. Apparently, he was in the midst of getting some surgery to get some cancer removed from his lung, and apparently, he feels like he's going to be ready to go because he's rescheduled his show for the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena here in Jacksonville on Monday night, April 27th at 7 o'clock p.m. on April 27th of 2026. Barry Manilow. I can't find a lot of Barry Manilow fans, Joe, but there's going to be a lot of those ladies that like him. They're going to be there.
I got to interject for a second here. We're on the TEAL podcast, and it's a sports talk podcast, and I really don't feel comfortable discussing Barry Manilow. Let's talk about some, let's talk about some hey, let's talk about the because you brought Barry Manilow up. Now I'm going to have to get a little political on you. Let's talk about the Super Bowl halftime show.
What's going on there, Joe?
I'm disgusted that this guy Bad Bunny is going to be the halftime show. He's going to do the whole show in Spanish. No offense to Spanish speaking people, but let's face it. When you're in the United States of America, English is our language. That's what we want. I will be tuning in for that Turning Point of America Kid Rock halftime show. That's what I want. I want some. And I also just heard the other day that it's been 20 years since they had a country and Western singer in the halftime show.
Yeah.
And I'm disgusted.
They could easily have one. I mean, I don't know what Shania Twain's doing these days, or, there's a lot of other ones. They got the male country singers they could mix it up a little bit. But, when they do these halftime shows, they kind of condense it into, 10, 15 minutes maybe?
Yeah, it's a little more than that, I think. I think it's 15 or 20.
Okay.
But it's just, enough already with this. Let's get some, where's the old-time rock and rollers? Where's the, in the country and Western? I remember in 1999, the last Super Bowl that I was photographing, Faith Hill was singing the national anthem and stuff. Now, Tug McGraw was there, and Travis Tritt, and
I know our executive producer JC would agree wholeheartely with you about the halftime show and about maybe having a country act or two, or a rock or pop or jazz act, or something a little more mass appeal, maybe.
I think Kid Rock would fire up the crowd.
Yeah, he could sing. Our executive producer's from Alabama. He might play Sweet Home Alabama or something like that.
Yeah,
he might fire that one up. Yeah, that song was written on the creeks of Jacksonville, Florida. By the way, when
have you
wrote that song.
To change gears for a second, have you seen the Budweiser commercial they're going to run during the Super Bowl with the Leonard Skinner Freebird song?
Wow, no, I didn't know that. Tell me.
Oh my gosh, you need to. You can watch it on YouTube. Budweiser commercial for the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And it's a set to Leonard Skinner's Freebird,
Oh,
which is
wow. Okay.
probably one of the top 5 greatest songs in the history of music. I don't
You're
think
right.
either one of us will argue that.
That's exactly right, Joe. By the way, the concerts, we were talking about concerts, but people can go to bigjreport.com, check our Neighbors 2 section. They can check the concerts out there. And, we've got sponsors on here. I've got Saucer Realty in Capital, a good friend of mine who sells houses in North Florida, Gainesville, Jacksonville, Live Oak, Lake City. And then we got some internet radio shows, the madmaxmix.weebly.com. Mad Max plays a lot of Skinner on his show on Wednesday nights, Joe.
Oh, that's that Mad Max is a guy you got to listen to all the time, man. Anybody that plays Skinner and knows what's going on.
Oh yes, Max will play Skinner, the Allman Brothers, and then I was listening to Max's show a couple of weeks ago, and I heard him play that White Rabbit song where go ask Alice when she's 8 feet tall, or maybe 10 feet tall, I believe.
Jefferson Airplane, sure.
Jefferson Airplane. And of course, Max will play some Steely Dan, like I like, ARS, Atlanta Rhythm Section, but a lot of Skinner. He's really, and I'm originally from Jacksonville, but Max is originally from Georgia, but he's like a Skinner aficionado. So you got to check him out at madmaxmix.weebly.com on Wednesday nights, 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock Eastern Time on Wednesday nights. And then our executive producer JC has a show on Thursday nights, live from the pub with JC. He plays great high octane music. Max is probably more of going back to the roots of music, but both shows are very, very good. Thursday night with JC live from the pub at LakeUFallahits.com.
Well, you got to listen to JC. You got to listen to JC too to give him a little love. Poor guys from Buffalo.
Well, he's not originally from Buffalo. Do you know how he became a Buffalo Bills fan? Living in Alabama?
I can guess it was
story. I got to tell you the story, Joe.
Fell down drunk one night.
No. It's nothing like no. We're talking about 2 different worlds here, Joe. I mean, I know you're from up there, but what I was going to tell you is, and I know you were never a Buffalo Bills fan, but I know that JC, when he was a little boy, and his twin brother, Jarrett, their mother gave them jackets. It was wintertime. They needed to wear something warm. And their mother gave Jarrett the New York Giants jacket, while JC got the Buffalo Bills jacket. That's how he became a Buffalo Bills fan since he's been about 8 years old.
So it begs the question is, what did JC do to get his mom mad that she gave him a Buffalo Bills jacket?
Well, no, I don't think she ever got mad at him. I remember a conversation I had with her one time many, many years ago, and I think I told JC about this, but his mother said, boy, that boy, he knows everybody. And he does. He's wrapped up in the glamour of it all. He's our executive producer, does a internet radio show on Thursday nights. And he listened to you, Joe, talking football. He had nothing but good things to say about, the famous New York Joe.
Well, the other thing is he's in charge of the coffee and the bongos.
That's it. And I did see a good interview on YouTube you might want to check out sometime. Bill O'Reilly, and you know who that is.
Oh, yeah.
Bill O'Reilly was interviewing Joe Namath. Probably within the last few days, and it's a very good interview. I on my Twitter, or it's known as the X now, x.com.
Right,
on my X feed, I did actually post it or repost it, and it's a good interview. Bill O'Reilly and Joe Namath. Joe Namath is one of the big names synonymous with the Super Bowl. You have to admit that. Old number 12.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That was actually the game that put the Super Bowl on the map.
It was, yeah, that's true, and
that was what initiated the whole merger.
Yeah,
because they didn't think the AFC was going to do anything, and they beat the team in the NFC, the Baltimore Colts, which at that time was coached by Don Shula, and he suffered with that loss for his whole career.
Man, but he made up for it with a couple of Super Bowl wins when he
He
coached the
did
Miami
make up
Dolphins.
for it, but he could never shake that.
Oh yeah, yeah. But Don Shula still got the record for the most wins of all time for the head coaches, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
he took that perfect season to the grave with him, the 17-0. And Joe,
Yeah, that'll never be repeated.
And Joe, you were the photographer during all those great times. You were the personal photographer of Don Shula when he was with the Dolphins. And man, I'm glad you joined us here on our Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode show number 14. The only 14 I could think of was Justin Blackmon, who I'm going to say Justin Blackmon was not a bust, but because he played well at times with the Jaguars, but man, he just had some personal issues and never got back to playing again after he got suspended a couple of times.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh, I know. But so Joe, just we're getting ready to wrap things up here, but just kind of repeat your prediction. We're both, you kind of held the cap gun to my head, and I went ahead and, as much as I wanted to pick Seattle, I picked New England 28-20, and you're picking New England 23-22. Those are our predictions now, right?
Those are our predictions.
So we got New England winning. Seattle's a 4.5-point favorite, and I think we both kind of agreed that Seattle probably overall may have the better team, but New England, it looks like we're thinking they're going to win the game, though.
I'm rooting for New England to win the game.
Okay. Let me ask you one thing before we go, Joe. When you won the Teal Shirt Report Fantasy Football League, who was the wide receiver you had with Seattle that really helped propel you?
Jackson Smith Nahigwa, JSN.
JSN, okay. And he'll be playing Sunday.
He'll be playing Sunday.
Yeah. Let me ask you about Sam Darnold also. Is Sam Darnold 100% after his oblique issue?
Yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Drake May will be fine. They'll all be fine.
So if we're going to say New England wins the game, we're maybe saying that Sam might throw an interception or two, right? Maybe.
Possibly. I think they're both going to throw an interception.
So we're going to see both. We're going to see ample turnovers from both teams in.
Exactly. Right. And as I peruse the famous number 14s, I don't really see any famous quarterbacks that were number 14. Like you said, Fred Biletnikoff was a number 14. There's not a lot of famous 14s.
I think I got one for you. Now, he was not a famous guy, but he played for kind of, at the time, a pretty good team, a team that we've discussed that actually won a Super Bowl. And I think I came up with and he was not a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but he was a guy people would remember when you bring his name up. And I think he may have wore 14. Let me see. Let's see. The guy that I'm thinking of, here we go. Number 14. How about this name, Joe? I got one for you, New York Joe. Ed Podolak, running back for the Chiefs, wore number 14.
Sure, Ed Podolak. All right.
How about that?
Now, I will give you some number 4 famous 14s. 14 doesn't go without some greatness in other sports. Pete Rose, number 14.
Yeah.
Oscar Robertson, number 14.
Yeah. Cincinnati Royals.
Bob Cousy.
Yeah.
Yep. Bob Cousy. Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a real good 14. You came up with some good ones, Joe. Bob Cousy before my time, but I certainly remember Oscar Robertson, especially when he, after I think he got traded from the Cincinnati NBA team to Milwaukee, and he won an NBA title with then Lou Alcindor, who later became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Stephon Diggs.
The old pressure cooker. That's
why a Tittle.
Oh, you're going way back, Joe. That's before your time, isn't it?
Yep. DK Metcalf.
Yeah, he's a big. Who's DJ Metcalf with now? He moved from Seattle to somewhere
Pittsburgh.
Else. That's right.
Oh, there you go. Dan Fouts.
Oh, yeah. Our executive producer would know Dan Fouts really well. He liked that San Diego offense way back in the day when they had the wide receivers, Jefferson. Didn't they have Lofton for a while, too? And then he went to another team. James Lofton.
Yep.
Well, they had 3 big-time receivers, Jefferson, Lofton, and one other guy, I think. I can't remember who that was. That might have been Wes Chandler, I think, may have played for New Orleans. I'm not sure if he played for San Diego.
Wes Chandler definitely played for San Diego.
Okay, so he may have been one of the 3, perhaps.
Kellen Winslow.
Oh, yeah, the tight end. Yeah. And but let's open up a can of worms as we go, Joe. Pete Rose, should he be in the Hall of Fame?
You know, I was listening yesterday to somebody on the radio, and they were talking about the Hall of Fame inductions with Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald and whatnot. Yeah. And he said, you know, you could say what you want about Belichick not getting in, but, you know, the Baseball Hall of Fame has the all-time home run hit leader and the all-time hits leader, and neither one of them are in the Hall of Fame. It's just a travesty.
How about those apples? I mean, Belichick did some creative things, Spygate and whatnot, but you're surprised he didn't get in the first go-around for him?
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I mean, there were some people saying the Lombardi Trophy might be changed to the Belichick Trophy. So how do you keep him out, right?
They've as I read this morning, they've already reconfigured the voting system.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I heard Deion Sanders. There was a quote from Deion Sanders that said only the Hall of Famers should vote for Hall of Famers. Deion.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. Yep.
Okay. What about Fred Taylor with the Jaguars? He should be in.
I don't know about that.
Oh, my goodness. Now we're going to get into some future debates with you, New York Joe.
Yeah, you want to have every Jaguar player ever in the Hall of Fame. I know you, Scott.
It took Boselli for years to get in. He should have got in 2 years earlier than he did, Joe.
I mean, if you look up the definition of a homer in the dictionary, there's a picture of you, Scott.
Well, and then JC said, let it go. When I talked about the Patriots only getting called for 1 penalty for 10 yards back in January of 2018. When Brother Bortles was kind of tearing up on the sidelines, and we got that game taken away from us, Joe, back in January of 2018.
Yeah, you have a soft spot in your heart for Brother Bortles, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There was
at least
I'm going to talk about it on the next podcast. There was a post. Yeah.
Yeah, we could discuss Brother Bortles on the next podcast.
Well, what was funny is I saw a Facebook post that had all these great quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Bradshaw, a bunch of different ones. They said, who would you, when you needed one drive for a touchdown, which one would you call for? So I'm saying, I answered him. I said, Brother Bortles, look what he did in 2018. Man. Well, I mean, Bortles, they beat the Steelers twice. Bortles put up like 40-plus points in that playoff game. People forget that.
I'll tell you what, you can take Brother Bortles and I'll take Joe Montana.
Joe, I think you became speechless there for a couple of minutes. Hey, we'll do this again. I was a lot of fun.
It's been a great time, Scott. I look forward to the game tomorrow, and I look forward to we'll recap the game on our next podcast.
Yeah, and if Seattle wins, we both have egg on our face then, right?
Oh, no, just deny.
Okay. Oh, I've heard that one before. Hey, this has been the Teal Shirt Report podcast episode show number 14. Brought to you by Saucerality and Capital, the MadMaxMix.Wiggly.com. JC live from the pub show on Thursday nights at LakeUpAllTheHits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. And I heard some kind words from you, Joe, for Mad Max, because he's kind of a Leonard Skinner aficionado.
Mad Max and JC.
That's right. Hey, you have
everybody should listen. Tune in. Check them out, guys. Check them out.
Hey, New York Joe, man, we're almost an hour in, man. I've enjoyed it. Have a great day, Joe. Thank you for joining us on this Super Bowl preview.
Thank you, Scott. I look forward to next time.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon, Joe. Have a great one.
All right.